Good morning and welcome to Women's Hour on Dublin City FM. I'm Laura Fitzsimons. As you all know, I'm always fascinated with people who have achieved greatness and overcome challenges. So I was instinctively interested in my next guest's book. She came up with the brilliant idea of interviewing key women in Ireland who have achieved greatness. The book is titled Capital Women of Influence and is written by journalist, author, PR person and broadcaster of the weekly PR radio show Mediascope on Dublin City FM. I'd like to welcome Ellen Gunning.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Ellen. How are you doing?
Good to be here with you.
Good, thank you. And thank you very much for joining us today. Firstly, what motivated you to write this book?
Oh, what happened was, as you mentioned in the introduction, I do the Mediascope programme on Dublin City FM. I do it each year from September through to June, and I take the summer off. And I've been doing that for maybe 5 or 6 years now. But last summer, I just got this figary that I kind of missed radio for the 3 months of the summer, but I didn't want to continue with the Mediascope show. So I thought, well, in a perfect world, what would I actually like to do? And I thought, well, in a perfect world, I'd love to interview all these fascinating women that I've been watching for years. So that's how the book actually came about.
Okay, very interesting. The women you interviewed ranged in different ages from 30 to 70. You mentioned that some of them were partnered, some were single. Was there any commonality between them?
Oh, I was looking for the common thread. I really thought that once I'd interview them all, I would come up with, now this is what they all had in common. You know, They were all born rich, born poor, daddy's favourite, not daddy's favourite, all went to the same third level education or whatever. They had no common thread at all, except that they were all very generous in giving credit to other people. So they willingly said, my teacher was a great help, my father encouraged me, my boss encouraged me. They genuinely gave credit to other people who helped them along the way. They all worked extraordinarily hard. I mean, they actually thought nothing of it. They put in very, very long hours and said things like, but you know, that's the nature of the business that I'm in. And they all, I think, genuinely shared a kind of surprise that people were interested in them at all or thought they had done particularly well. They underestimated how much they had actually achieved.
Yeah, so actually there were 3 commonalities then, when you're saying that they had that sense of giving, they wanted to give, the fact that they all worked hard and that they were surprised. That's interesting.
Yeah, those were the 3, that they would all have in common.
Oh, very good, very good. Any particular person you related to and why?
Oh, all of them.
All of them?
All of them in a different way, yeah.
No particular person stood out as say, oh yeah, I can understand exactly where she came from. I had a similar challenges, overcame those challenges similar ways. Anything that sort of stuck out for you?
No, because I think all of them had different challenges. They were all so ordinary in a lot of ways. They're extraordinary in what they've achieved, but they're all very ordinary in how they got there. So I think every single one of them you could find something that they had done that you would say, oh yeah, that reflects something that was in my own life. So there wasn't one in particular who stood out as that's the one who is most like me or most like ordinary woman in Dublin. Yeah,
very good. What about if you were to synopsise 3 nuggets of information or advice overall, not to say this woman here, but just 3 nuggets of information that you got from all the interviewing process?
I suppose one would be, and I'm actually thinking of Veronica Dunn, it's more an age thing than anything else, that Veronica's piece of advice, Veronica would be in her 70s now, I suppose. Yeah. And Veronica said that she, to this day, she advises her students that if they want a career in the opera, they should not get married. And I think that's a product of her age. When she got married, her mother didn't speak to her from the time she got engaged until the night before her wedding, because she felt it was entirely wrong that any woman would want to be married and have a career. And I think that probably reflects Veronica's age, if you like.
Yeah.
Mary O'Rourke, on the other hand, who would be, well, almost of the same vintage, I suppose now.
She'll be similar age
But
group,
Mary O'Rourke's sort of take on life was that she always went out and did anything she wanted to do, and she found a way of coping with it. And Enda was there in the background and he supported her. But really she was very much independent woman who happened to be married with children, which was very different to Veronica Dunn. And some of the women I interviewed, the younger women, hardly mentioned their partners or their husbands at all.
Oh, right,
so
very interesting.
I suppose that was a difference in generations, or in how they perceived married versus single.
Okay, very good. If the book was researched and written, say, 50 years ago, what would you think the main differences would be? So 50 years back.
50 years back, you'd have found it very difficult to find women who had achieved, 13 women who would actually stand up the way these 13 women do. 50 years ago, There was no woman editor of a newspaper. There was no woman on the stage in Covent Garden who was from Ireland. There was no major female fundraiser in Ireland. There would have been women senators, all right, but you could virtually go through every category that these women cover, and they just didn't exist 50 years ago.
Yeah, so we're making progress.
Huge, giant steps.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming in today, Ellen. The Capital Women of Influence is published by Liffey Press and is available in all good bookshops now. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.